Hello everybody again. Let's get some better light here. There we go. So, as some of you recall from previous weeks, I'm working on a bunch of coasters, but I don't have access to my planer right now, which is what I need. So, I'm going to do some more work on the bench that I'm making. So, this board, or these two boards rather, will end up becoming the herringbone pattern for the seat. And I have marked on the bench, which is, or the frame for the bench, which is sitting outside currently, the 45-degree angles on that. So I now have this board, which is how wide I'm going to make these, and I have marked out how long it ends up being. So what I'm going to do is rip these down to whatever this size ends up being, and then once those are done, cut them down to be the width that I need, and I'll just cut a whole bunch of those, and then I'll be able to take those outside, lay down some Gorilla Glue, and brad them all in place. So, should be a fun day of cutting on the table saw. Let's get to it.
So first thing I did was I had to determine exactly how long all of my boards could be. And I did that by using a separate piece of wood that was that same width that I was going to cut these to. And I laid it down and marked off how long it was. I then took that measurement to these boards and realized that there wasn't enough material on these boards that I'm cutting up now to cut them into fifths, so I just cut them all into fourths, because that would allow for the most amount of pieces to be cut out of the boards. And then I did have a bit of overhang that once I was done I ended up trimming off afterwards. So I went into the half and I cut those halves in half, pieces out of each board. I ended up using 3 total pieces of that size, and then another section of 4 that were then off of another board. So I ended up using a little over 3 of those boards up. And they weren't all quite the same thickness, but it's not that big of a deal. Not too far off that the bench is all crooked. So then I set the fence to the width of the board that I had used when I marked off the size of the bench, or the size of that board for on the bench. And then the next step is to take all of those pieces and rip them down to size. And here we go. And always remember, safety first, which would mean using a push stick, having a guard over your blade, prevents kickback. Safety, safety, safety. Make sure you're wearing safety glasses. Earplugs wouldn't be a bad idea either. And so once I had them all cut, it was just a matter of turning off the saw, carrying them all outside, and the pile that you're about to see is just the compilation of 2 of those longer boards. And again, I ended up using a little over 3 of them, so there's going to be another half of that pile plus a little bit. So I went through quite a bit of wood for on the top, whereas had I just gone and run, I could have just used 2 5-foot lengths, run them across, and just had 2 boards width. And oh, here I go. No, I didn't need any. No, I don't. So I get them all out, and apparently I never started recording. So I saw that I basically had enough for cutting up a third one of those boards. And so then I went to a square and a speed square that I could get the 45-degree angle off of the side and have it squared up to that as well. And I laid down my first couple of boards, my first two boards there, made sure they were square with each other. I actually Craig screwed those together so that they would stay together before I would, clamp in place so I could pull it nice and tight up against that each square while I hammer them in place, or not when I well, I nailed them in place. Using an air nailer. And then after I get that first one in place, it's just simply a matter of laying out the next batch of boards. And what I did is I ran them all the way across to the end so that I would know that it's actually, it stays off center, because had I not had the main square squared up quite perfectly, the center of this pattern would have varied off of the center of my bench, and with only having that first one nailed down, I could pry it up and re-angle it so that it goes across properly, which I didn't end up needing to do. So then I went and I took off a section of the herringbone and I put down a bunch of glue so that it's not entirely relying on the brad. The brads are really just there to keep them in place while it's gluing in place. And so I've got glue on the centers and then on the boards on the outside, an actual frame portion of it. And it's just put them in place and push them down real nice and hard so that the glue spreads out real nicely. And just keep filling in the pattern and then brad them all in place. And then move on to the next section and brad those and glue them down, right in place, and then move on and finish it all up that way. So that's what I'm going to be working on now for the next little bit. So I broke it up into 3 different groups, just so that I had a easily manageable section to work with at each time. And then I almost ran out of glue at the end, but I was able to squeeze enough out of that little tube to get it to work. As I had said earlier, I was going to use Gorilla Glue, and somehow or another I lost, misplaced, someone else used, whatever, the bottle of Gorilla Glue that I had purchased when I was working on my trailer. And so I ended up using some liquid nails instead, and hopefully they will work just as well. So after I glued them all down and brad them in place, I lifted it up there just to see if the brads all went into the boards, which they all hadn't. So I straightened some of those out, put in some new brads, and it's basically done. I did lose the footage of me cutting the edges off, but that ends the video for today. I'll see you next week.